ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ वर्स् 55 ध्यातृध्याने परित्यज्य क्रमाध्येयैकगोचरं निवातदीपवच्चित्तं समाधिरभिधीयते ध्यातृध्याने परित्यज्य. So dhyatru and so that is a samasa. So dhyata cha dhyanam cha. So dhyatru dhyane, it's a dvandva samasa. Dhyata indicates will. Dhyanam indicates effort based on will. So dhyata and kramat. So in this order. So once you start thinking, you are a meditator. Object of meditation is Brahman or Atma, and very process of meditation in which you entertaining a thought, I am Shuddha, etc., and then retaining, etc. So all this process is going on, and if that continues for some time, definitely you get absorbed into that thought that I am Shuddha, etc. And therefore this is called a samadhi. It's in which the very dhyata and this process of dwelling upon, etc., very thought, etc., both get absorbed into that object of meditation called Brahman or Atma. So that is Nirvikalpa Samadhi as such. And I told you the mind has that kind of a capacity. It's a normal, natural faculty of any mind. When it starts thinking in one line and dwells upon for a long time, it gradually gets absorbed into that, and very meditator gets absorbed into that. The very thought also get absorbed into that. You will not have now that kind of effort at all. Well, let me retain the thought, let me entertain the thought. That itself goes away. So very first thing is that will goes away. When the dhyata goes away, that effort also will go away. Will-based effort also go away. So kramat, that's how it is said, dhyatru dhyane parityajya kramat. Kramat means it will happen in order. First will-based effort, effort goes away and then will goes away. It won't happen that way. So effort is always based on a will. So first will goes away, and will is based on a meditator, definitely. So dhyata indicates a will and dhyanam indicates will-based effort, and both get absorbed. So out of this triad, actually only object of meditation remains. Everything goes away. That is a Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. And that is, I have given you several examples that this is our experience. This kind of a Nirvikalpa Samadhi is our experience. Only object of meditation in which you are absorbed is different. Some people are absorbed in worries, some people are absorbed in painting, some people are absorbed in reading, some people are absorbed in cricket. It depends. What is what is the domain of your interest, depending upon that. You have a very keen interest in a given thing, definitely immediately that you are involved into that, initially, and you have that kind of awareness that, well, I am reading, etc. Suppose you have a reading hobby, etc. So you will definitely you have that awareness that I am a reader of this detective story, etc. And maybe possible that initially your mind go here and there for a moment, because ultimately that's a very interesting subject for you, so you will be involved into that, and then slowly you will find after some time even the person forgets himself, and the very that I am right now reading, etc., and there are thoughts pertaining to that also you forget. So will and will based effort goes away, only that story remains. That's the only thing remains. And but how can you say, Swamiji, in which condition I can say that, well, I forget myself? When basically you forget the place, means you have forgotten yourself. Your awareness about yourself will definitely bring awareness about a time and place. And so basically, if you want to check yourself whether you have forgotten yourself or not, well, you forget the time and place in which you are sitting, or you are situated. So the time and place, when it goes away, definitely you have forgotten yourself. And of course, then effort also goes away, and therefore only object of that interest, etc., will remain. That's totally you are absorbed into that object. Same way here also. You are totally absorbed into object of meditation, that is nididhyasanam, that is that I am Shuddha, etc., and or I am Asangha, whatever it may be. And so that only goes on, and that, but Swamiji, then you are saying, well, same thought may not be there, similar thoughts. Yeah, no problem. But you, you can't be, don't remain away from that. That is what happens. So, well, automatically one by one, like Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Sabhavaha. So your mind constantly dwell upon that. Even it doesn't take your permission at all. So absorbed into that yourself. This object of meditation, that is self. Well, you don't have even a awareness about place, time, etc., or the situation, etc. So, and very beautiful example Vidyaranya gives is Dhyaya Eka Gocharam. Dhyaya, object of meditation, Eka Gocharam, that only will remain. Nivata Deepavat Chittam. So, Nivata Deepavat Dhyaya Eka Gocharam Bhavati. So, just as if like a flame which is kept in a breezeless place, and there is no flickering in that, same way, such a state of absorption is that there is no flickering. Just only the self and the nature of the self, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, etc., that only will remain. You are totally absorbed into that. So once you start Nididhyasanam, this will result into such kind of a Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Now after that, now the question is regarding the Samadhi. Now few things will be, here we will be discussing regarding Samadhi now. So, is it a thoughtless state or with thoughts? That's the question. And for that matter, we'll have to go to the next verse. Verse 56. Vrittayastu tadanim ajñātāpyātma gocharaha smaranādanumiyante vyuthitasya samutthitat. Here Vidyaranya points out that even in a Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, vrittis are there, but its presence is not recognized at that time. Because why it is not recognized? Because ahankara is not functioning at that time. And I will give you parallel your experience regarding sleep also, and that has been talked by Vidyaranya in the 5th verse of this chapter itself. We have gone through. So ahankara does not function at that time. So when ahankara is dormant, and whatever vritti arises in the mind, that's called a sukshma vritti. And when vritti is entertained consciously in the presence of ahankara, it is called sthula vritti. So when vritti continues to happen without a will or necessity of a ahankara, well, it is called sukshma vritti. And the difference between two is very simple. Like, you are aware of that vritti, because awarer is there, right? Ahankara means awarer, knower. A knower is there. then it is aware of the vritti also. So that is called sthula vritti. But suppose the pramata itself has resolved, like a deep sleep state or a samadhi, whatever. So then the pramata, the knower is basically has become dormant, and that vritti is there. Well, that vritti is called sukshma vritti. So, like you are right now listening to this class, right now, you are listening to the class and you are aware of the fact that you are listening to the class, right? You are listening to the class, one thing. But you are aware of the fact also that you are listening to the class. That's what I am saying. So, knower is present right now, which is aware of that, well, I am listening to the class, etc. So, accordingly, vritti is arising in your mind. So, this is a sthula vritti. But in sushupti, etc., this tamo vritti is there. The tamaha means basically ignorance, etc. And that is what even Vidyaranya talked in verse number 5. You can go back afterwards. Sushuptau tamobodho bhavet smritihi, he said. Sushuptau, in deep sleep state, tamobodaha. Tamobodaha means basically knowledge of tamaha. Knowledge of ignorance is there, means vritti is there. And he beautifully explained that. How can you say that the sukshma vritti pertaining to, sukshma vritti whose object is ignorance, etc., is there in deep sleep state? How can you say that? Well, smriti. Smriti is there when you get up, when you wake up in the morning. Well, definitely you say you have a memory. Then memory is there. Without vritti, how the memory can happen? So definitely you must have experienced in a deep sleep state, and then experience definitely requires a vritti. So, but since the experiencer is dormant, well, so you are not aware of, the knower is dormant. So ahankara is dormant in a deep sleep state, and therefore you are not conscious of that vritti which is arising, whose object is ignorance, that you are not aware of. So, but vritti takes place. Because you definitely you say in the morning that, well, I did not know anything in the deep sleep state. Means you have experienced tamaha, you have experienced the ignorance. So, but the presence of vritti definitely so is not recognized because ahankara is dormant in deep sleep state. And this is the difference between sthula and sukshma vritti. So, here Vidyaranya says, vrittayahatu tadanim ajñātāha bhavanti. So, tadani, vrittayahatu tadani, at that time, well, all these vrittis, basically, all the thoughts, sukshma vrittis are there. Tadani means a nirvikalpa samadhau. In nirvikalpa samadhi also, well, all these vrittis are also there, sukshma vrittis are also there. Which vrittis? Pertaining to Atma, right? All these vrittis in nirvikalpa samadhi are also there. But during samadhi, you are not aware of. Because that dhyata itself, remember now, that meditator has become as though dormant, and since it is dormant, well, he is not aware of, since the pramata itself has become dormant, so he is not aware of the vrittis pertaining to the self in the mind. So vrittayaha ajñāta bhavanti, etc. So they are not noticed, they are not recognized. And well, what type of vritti? Like in sushupti, vrittis are called avidya vrittis. So here in samadhi also means yogi samadhi, also vrittis are there. That is also avidya vritti, because yogi also is ignorant. He has definitely done us through Ashtanga Yoga. He has reached nirvikalpa samadhi, but he has not exposed himself to the teaching, etc. Then in that case he has avidya vritti only. So even in the sushupti also there is avidya vritti. In a samadhis of a yogi also there is avidya vritti. But here in our case nirvikalpa samadhi, well, the vritti are vidya vritti, and that's how he says atma gocharaha. Atma gocharaha. Gochara means vishaya. I mean all the vrittis whose object is atma alone, and in which he has absorbed due to a retention of the thought, etc., for a long length of time. Well, now he has only thoughts pertaining to the Atma, and in which that dhyata is also absorbed. I mean, he is resolved. And so, Atma gocharaha vrittayastu tadanim bhavanti. But ajñātaha, definitely, he at that time, it is not known, because the very knower, the meditator, is resolved. So Atma Vishayaka, Atma Gocharaha means Atma Vishayakaha, Atmakara Vrittayah, Akhandakara Vrittayah, etc. etc. Well, they are not recognized at that time. They are not noticed. To take a note, to take a note of thing, a knower should remain. If knower becomes dormant and the vrittis are there, well, that is called sukshma vritti. And then once you come out of that, maybe samadhi or maybe sushupti, once you become aware, and once you awake, well, then definitely you become aware, and then, well, you will have a smriti. If you have a smriti, means you have experienced. Every smriti, every piece of a memory is born of experience. If you have experience, there must have been a vritti. And therefore, definitely, this is how we prove. And this is how he has proved it in the verse number 5 also, while talking about Sushupti, etc. also. So well, how can you say that in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Atma, Karavritti, etc. are there? Well, Vidyaranya says Anumiyante. Well, they are inferred. So exactly like in Sushupti, Tamovrittayaha Vartante, all this Tamovritti, etc. The vrittis whose object is just ignorance, etc. is there. So Smaranat, because of when he wakes up and then he has a smriti. So very beautifully said in that verse number 5, Sushuptasya tamobodho suptothitasya bhavet smritihi supta uthitasya purvam suptaha paschad uthitaha. Earlier he slept and now he has woken up. And then to such a person, Saushupta tamobodha. Saushupta. Well, Saushupta means pertaining to the Sushupti. Tamaha, ignorance pertaining to the Sushupti, Bodha, but that kind of a knowledge he has, and that he recollects. He must have undergone that experience, and so he recollects when he gets up. And therefore that proves that, well, definitely vrittis also must have been there in Sushupti also. And what was the object of that vritti? Thought? Ignorance. Tamobodha. Tamaha. So definitely this is the way he says, and they are called Sukshma vrittis because basically the Ahankara is dormant in Sushupti. Same way Ahankara is dormant in a Samadhi also. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Otherwise, if Ahankara is right there, the meditator is there, well, and he is aware, then he is aware of the vritti that yes, I can retain the thoughts pertaining to the self, etc. And so first he entertained and then now he retained, etc. So then all these things are there, then definitely Savikalpak Samadhi. And then it is not Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is out of the three, it has become one now. So the dhyata has resolved, and the dhyanam, that the thoughts, etc. also have not resolved, means it has get absorbed into an object. Now he has no more effort to retain the thoughts pertaining to self. That kind of that is called dhyana. That also is not there. So if once the dhyata goes, the will goes, definitely dhyanam also goes. And so dhyata and dhyanam both get resolved into dhyayam. Only the thoughts pertaining to the self are remain, in which both are get absorbed. Like the person is absorbed in a book, the subject matter, or the detective story or whatever. That person is totally absorbed. I am a reader also, that kind of a thing is not there in mind. I am reading right now, that kind of awareness also is not there. So he is totally absorbed, that kind of a thing. So this tamaha during sleep also is inferred. Same way Atma gocharaha vrittayaha. Well, so the thoughts pertaining to the Atma, etc. also are there. They can be, from they are inferred. From what? Smaranat. So Vithitasya samuthitat, Vidyaranya says, Vithitasya samuthitat smaranat anumiyante. From the memory, Vithitasya, one who comes out of the Samadhi, that person is called Vithita, who has come out of the Samadhi. I have told you in the morning, they call Vithan. When the Samadhi breaks, or he comes out, the person comes out of the Samadhi, they call that is as a Vithan. So Vithitasya samuthitat smaranat anumiyante. From memory we can infer that, well, during that Samadhi, also the thoughts pertaining to the self were there, and they are called Sukshma vrittis. And and samadhehe we will have to supply. Vyukthitasya samuthitat samadhehe smaranat anumiyante. So this is about nirvikalpaka samadhi. In the previous verse, in the verse number 55, talked about nididhyasanam, and here now he and samadhi also, and then now regarding samadhi he has clarified that in samadhi also, if samadhi nirvikalpa samadhi of a Vedantic nirvikalpa samadhi, well, definitely in that definitely vrittis are there, because ultimately it has resulted from the nididhyasanam, and therefore in nididhyasanam the thoughts pertaining to the self are there. Then something else happens, that is due to a natural faculty of a mind to get absorbed into that, if it if it continues. So samadhi is just a result of a nididhyasana. Nirvikalpa samadhi is a result of a nididhyasana. Now in verse number 57, vrittina manuvrittistu prayatnat prathamadapi adrishta satkrita samskara sachivad bhavet. Now a natural question, from a seeker is, when he hears this, then he definitely likes this kind of a thing, that nididhyasanam and samadhi, etc. Then a question is, how can I avoid this self-forgetfulness? One person hears and then he forgets also. I'm the nature of the self, etc. Nityaha, Shuddhaha, Buddhaha, Muktaha, Sabhava, etc. All this, he forgets. That's the biggest problem of every seeker. So every student tells also that, generally the problem is not of a reception, but the problem is of a retention. We understand, we receive the knowledge, that problem is not there. But to retain is a big problem. And therefore, if we cannot retain it, we cannot do nididhyasanam itself. And therefore, there is a question of nirvikalpa samadhi also. Of course, nirvikalpa samadhi, etc., he talks. It's not a desirable, I'm going to talk, nothing to worry about. But since he has talked, we are discussing. In our case, shrotavya, mantavya, nididhyasitavya. Yajnavalkya did not say shrotavya, mantavya, nididhyasitavya and samadhitavya. He has not told like that. And so nothing to worry. But here Vidyaranya says that if person continues nididhyasanam, this will be perhaps a natural outcome, that your mind gets absorbed into this vrittis pertaining to the self. And you will forget that you are a meditator, nididhyasan karta also, that thing also may go away. There is no effort on your part to retain those thoughts, etc. Automatically they are retained. And so your will and will-based effort, everything goes away, only those thoughts continue. And so you are totally absorbed into that kind of feeling. That he wants to say that sometime in nirvikalpa samadhi, can result automatically after a long practice, etc. It can result from nididhyasana. But for us, nididhyasana is sufficient. Our job is, there should be no viparyaya. All wrong notions we will have to drop. And for that we have to collect all the words pertaining to Atma from all the Upanishads and keep ready. And an explanation of every word. Because all those words and the meaning of each word will definitely knock off a particular notion from your mind pertaining to yourself. And therefore it is very essential. That's how somebody asked to Pujya Swamiji, why so many words are there? Ultimately you say Atma is free. So keep that word. Why this Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, so many words are there. Asangaha, Kutastha, Achalaha. If you collect all the words from verse number 12 to verse number 25 from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, you will find so many words are there. Achedyoyam, adahyam, akledyosho, ashoshya, evacha. But he has to use, Bhagavan has to use. Because Swamiji, if I would have gone little further into that lake, I would have drowned. So you feel that you can get drowned. So he said, akledya, even you are not get wet. Where is the question of you are going to get drowned? Anyway, so this is how it is. Swamiji, I was burnt to a large extent. I got burnt so much when I was cooking, etc. Well, if Bhagavan says, well, you are achedya adahya. So you are adahya. So you have so many wrong notions, so many. And those wrong notions you retain. You retain the wrong notions from the anadikala, from beginningless time. And you keep on adding also in a lifetime. So because you are transacting with the world. And as you transact with the world, you will create a new identity of yourself. And so many words are there pertaining to yourself. And that is how you are aware of yourself. That is called samsari jiva, who is aware of himself with so many words, but each word is indicating a limited meaning of yourself. Limited meaning. So in any word you pick up, which you are using about yourself, it indicates immediately limitation. Either you say, I am father, limited. Limited all the way. Limited. Or you say, I am mother, mother-in-law, whatever. So anything, any word you use about yourself, it shows only limitation, and which you don't like also. That's how samsara, suffering. And so definitely at least few of the words you have to keep ready with you in your pocket. So when you sit in a meditation, definitely bring one by one out and understanding pertaining to that. And if you continue like that for some time, you feel that you are absorbed into that. That's called samadhi. So when you do nididhyasanam like that, and your thinking continues, well, then will is dropped, will-based effort is dropped, only those thoughts will remain. Could you follow? And so once the will is dropped, the meditator is dropped, then definitely now those vrittis, which we were in Nididhyasanam we were calling as a sthula vritti, now in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, those vrittis become sukshma vrittis, because it doesn't have a support of a dhyata itself. The nididhyasan karta itself is resolved, and therefore this is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi in Vedanta, in which sukshma vrittis are there. Anyway, so now this question is, well, the problem is of a reception of problem is not of a reception of the teaching, but retention of the teaching. And this is a complaint even by Arjuna himself in 6th chapter. Yoyam yogas tvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasya aham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. Whatever you have taught, so many things in chapter 2, chapter 3, so many things regarding Atma, regarding Karma, everything has been taught, has been taught by you. You are Jagat Guru, and therefore, well, when you teach, how can I miss it actually? So I do receive the teaching, but the moment I wear chappal, so yes, I forget. Chappal also is a pair, and Ragadvesha also is a pair, and therefore it is a pair. Once you wear chappal, means once you wear Ragadveshas, everything gone. Everything gone. I am not Brahman, and nobody is Brahman. That is the thing. In class, everything is Brahman. Once you wear a chappal of Ragadvesha, I am also not a Brahman, and nobody is Brahman. Therefore, so anyway, I forget the teaching. So question is, well, how can I? Because you said, if you want to retain the teaching, it should not remain at the conscious mind. It should go at the subconscious level. How can I get that at the subconscious level? Anything which goes to the subconscious level, penetrates into subconscious mind, you need not worry. It is always with you. What in conscious mind, many things cannot be there. Otherwise, there will be a traffic problem. Because constantly there are so many things are coming, so many things. And there are 5 gates. And so this brings a sound, and this brings a form, and this brings a smell. And constantly you can see how many things in a day enter in your mind. And so all the things remain in a conscious mind means there will be a traffic problem. There will be so many accidents. So in a conscious mind, only few things remain. And then, then they go out also. But if you keep on experiencing the same thing again and again, Then from conscious mind, that thing drops into subconscious mind. And once it goes to subconscious mind, means they will retain. Suppose if you want to remove it, we have discussed this issue in Atma Bodha, if you remember. All our wrong emotions, negative emotions are there at the subconscious mind. Because they are all basically products of ignorance and wrong notions or identification with the body. And therefore they have percolated in the subconscious mind. And that is how when from the conscious mind, definitely our response is of one type. And from subconscious mind, it's of a different type. Anyway, so how can I get at this knowledge at a subconscious level? Bhagavan gives an answer in there also. In Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna asked this question, Yoyam yoga tvaya proktaha samena madhusudana. Well, etasyaham na pashyami. But I'm not keeping in my mind at all. Chanchalatvat. Since my mind is very chanchalam, very agitated, nothing has remained in the conscious mind. So I have received the teaching from you. You are Jagat Guru. But I could not retain it. So then Bhagavan said in verse number 45 in the 6th chapter, Prayatnadyatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishah aneka janma siddha tatoyati paramgatim. There Bhashyakara has told very beautiful thing. You see, Prayatnad yatamanaha, Bhashyakara says, Adhikam yatamanaha ityarthaha, means one has to put more efforts. Not only he says that Tatra yogi, that is this Vidvan, samshuddha kilbishaha, vishuddha kilbishaha, samshuddha papaha, anekeshu janmasu kinchit samskara jatam upachitya, tena upachitena aneka janma krutena samsiddha, etc. Tato labdha samyak darshan san, etc. etc. What I am interested is this, aneka janmasu kinchit samskara jatam upachitya. In every janma, you please acquire these samskaras, more and more of these samskaras. Means basically that I am the consciousness, etc. I am Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhavaha. So for that you have to, so if you want to percolate this knowledge into your personality or into your subconscious mind, then you definitely require prayatna yatamana. Basically, first thing is you require a very conscious effort. Then it becomes a spontaneity. And spontaneity, but Swami, you were talking about samskara. Yeah, but that even Vidyaranya is going to refer. That's how I am waiting. But I am just referring to Bhashyam in the verse number 45. There Bhashyakara has also told the same thing. That aneka janma samsiddha means in several janmas person acquires the samskaras. So that is how one has to always remain in touch with the Shastra, etc. Anyway, so this spontaneity, etc., in the knowledge, etc., it does not happen that way. So we will have to make it happen. So vrittinam anuvrittihi prathamat prayatnat bhavati, Vidyaranya says. Now, in our verse, vrittinam anuvritti means continuation of this vritti. I am Shuddha, etc., whatever we are discussing. Continuation of the vritti, etc., or memory of this teaching happens initially by putting lot of efforts, and that is how. But Swamiji, can you show us some to create a more samskaras of this, and so that I can retain this? What do you suggest? Basically, one thing I would like to tell you at this point is you should reduce your worldly activity, because basically when you do a worldly activity, definitely you will have to have all the thoughts pertaining to Anatma only. Naturally. And therefore, if you are too busy person, suppose, and you want to do simultaneously Nididhyasanam, etc., it would be really little difficult job. Because as you sit in Nididhyasanam and try to bring the teaching for assimilation, it won't come so easily. Because in that 15 minutes, it's other than that, in a waking state in 10 hours, 12 hours or whatever, person constantly remains busy and he has to think about, he has to respond, and all pertaining to the world, that is Anatma only. And then suddenly in that 15 minutes, try to recollect all the teaching and even to think, to retain the thought, even to read. First thing is to even entertain that thought pertaining to the self. and to retain, etc., and later this samadhi, etc. It's almost impossible thing. Maybe person may be very extraordinary, can do, but generally it is not possible. And that's how Yagnavalkya, of course, this is just by the way. Yagnavalkya has taken a sannyasa for that purpose only. Yagnavalkya was knowing everything, and he was a grihastha, but Mahagrihastha. He has 2 wives, and so he was running a Gurukulam and several things, several places he used to go, because very, very learned person. And still he called this Maitreya and Katyayani and said, well, I am retiring, etc. And then the Maitreya asked, for what you are going? You know everything. Well, he says, basically all this thing I want to assimilate. And therefore, so I don't say one has to take a sannyas, but at least one has to reduce worldly activities if it is possible. Then this kind of a nidhyasana, etc., gives a more practical benefit. You will be able to retain the knowledge what you have received, and that retained knowledge will definitely, when you want to play again in nidhyasana, it will be available to you to do that. So basically, anatmakara vritti only obstructs, right? And therefore, anatmakara vritti obstructs the atmakara vritti, and therefore, to have a more success in a nididhyasanam, well, too much of worldly activity one should not. If one has I don't know about the householders, but if the people can afford, then definitely they should try not to engage too much in the world. And that is how they say, they have very beautifully, it has been told here, asuptehe amrutehe kalam nayet vedanta chintaya avakasho na datavyaha kamadinam managapi. So, asuptehe amrutehe, suptehe means sleep, asuptehe, until you go to the sleep. Kalam nayet, you spend your time, vedanta chintaya. So, well, spend your time, pertaining to the thoughts of this Vedanta, etc., for the self. So, asupte, today until you go to sleep, next day until you go to the sleep, third day until you go to the sleep, amritehe, mrityu, death. Till a person gets death, well, till the prarabdha is over, one has to spend time in Vedanta Chintanam. Basically, one has to spend time with the thoughts pertaining to the self, doing nididhyasanam, etc. Avakashona datavyaha kamadinam managapi. Don't give a scope to this kama, krodha, lobha, etc. to overpower you, etc. Anyway, that is by the way. But then main thing was asuptehe amrutehe kalam nayet vedanta chintya. So then should we not eat? Should we not drink? I am not saying that. But basically there's this could happen to anybody, that whole day Swamiji, we cannot do that. I am not saying that. But you should be aware of that this is a very serious, a serious affair. It's really speaking a very serious affair. It's not that it's going to, you get a nishtha within a day or something. It's a time consuming thing, really time consuming thing. Bhagavan says, Aneka Janma Samsiddha. So, and Bhashyakara says, well, in every Janma you gather. What he says? Anekeshu Janmasu Kinchit Samskara Jatam Upachitya. Collect all the samskaras in every Janma pertaining to Atma, through Shravanam, Mananam, etc. And then Aneka Janma Samsiddha. That is how ultimately Tato Yati Param Gatim, well, you will gain moksha. Bhashyakara says that. So, this is a very serious affair. Anyway, nothing to be worried about. But we have to be conscious about certain worldly activities which are unnecessarily consuming the time. And well, I should not say what consumes your time. That depends upon the person. Anyway, so prathamat prayatnat, first your conscious effort has to be there. Then what is to be done? Well, Vidyaranya says, adrushta asakrut abhyasa samskara sachivat bhavet. Also, you have to put a conscious effort. Also adrushtam, first thing is, he is telling two factors here. First is adrushtam, so generate punyam. because that's we used to tell from when we were discussing about chapter 2, there also we discussed this issue that pratyavaya, which is some kind of, it's an obstruction, it's a basically papam only, which becomes an obstruction in your this goal of life, in the pursuit of this moksha. And therefore you should constantly generate the adrushta. That's a negative adrushta. So, well, you have to have antibodies, and that is this positive adrushta. But how we will generate? We have discussed this. While discussing Karma Yoga, we have discussed this. This Panchmahayagnas, etc., one should do daily basis. That's a Nitya Nimitik Karma, you can say, Nitya Karma actually. So, this Panchmahayagnas one should do. One should generate, one should have a religious life. One cannot easily give up religious life and, well, because I'm a spiritual person and the God is me, etc., and there is no other God, and so I can't worship. Well, we should, such kind of ideas, etc., fancies, we should keep it away. And so, well, Vidyaranya himself says adrushtam. So, first thing, well, will help you is adrushtam. And then asakrut abhyasa samskara. Not only that, samskaras, habits, Vedantic habits, which has been generated by what? Asakrut abhyasa, habit formed by repeated practice. Well, those things only will ultimately transform into this abiding into the knowledge. Ultimately, that happens. So, we will have to have a repeated abhyasa also. And that's only will form a new habit. We have an old habit, and this will be a new habit. So, this is how Sachiva means a sahakar, basically support. So, we have to take a support of these two things, adrushtam, so punya karmas, etc., and asakrit abhyasa samskara, constantly basically forming a Vedantic habit through the repeated practice of nididhyasanam. If you are not firm in nididhyasanam, etc., well, shravanam, etc., is there. So we have already said that also asuptehe amritehe kalam nait vedanta chintaya. Basically, one should spend maximum time, quality time in this Vedanta Chintanam, etc. One should spend till one gains, once prarabdha is over. So this is how it is. Let's go to verse number 58. Yatha deepo nivatastha ityadibhiranekatha bhagavani mamevartham arjunaya nyarupayate. Bhagavan imam evam artham arjunaya nyarupayate. The very same idea Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna, which we discussed. The Bhagavan also gave the same idea to Arjuna in the 6th chapter. So, of course, there it is in the Bhagavad Gita, it is very elaborate. And Krishna, Bhagavan gave example of that same thing. Yatha deepo nivatastha nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah, etc. Well, so Bhagavan also gave the same example of a flame in a breezeless space. Na ingate, na chalati. Yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah. So, I mean, basically, mind is of a meditator is compared which does not waver at all. I mean, when it comes away from the teaching of the this basically self, so he can dwell upon after even getting the teaching from the teacher, after Shravanam and Mananam, well, he can dwell upon himself like that. Anekada, in manifold ways he can do that. So his mind is constantly around that. Definitely his thoughts are all the time pertaining to the self. So deepaha nivatastaha. So like a flame in a breezeless space, it doesn't move. Same way his mind also does not waver into this anatma, etc. So that has been told in verse number 58. Let's go to verse 59. Anada viha samsare sanchitah karma kotayah anena vilayam yanti shuddho dharmo vivardhate. So Vidyaranya is going to now deal with the phalam of nididhyasana. What phalam you can get? What result will, if you do successfully nididhyasana, what result will be there? He is discussing that. Benefit, I mean. And it's easy to understand. Benefit is what? All this samsaric ways of thinking, etc., becomes weaker. I am helpless, etc. I am small, etc. I am nobody takes care of me, I am not an object of anybody's love, I am limited, etc. So those all these things basically with the the idea about the notion about yourself which brings a suffering in your mind ultimately, those things have now gone away. Basically, it has gone from the subconscious mind. Nididhyasana we are doing for that purpose. Basically, conscious mind has already knowledge because Shravanam Mananam he has done. And so, in his conscious mind, he can give a lecture also. Beautiful lecture he can give. And but his response, well, in a certain situation, provocative situation, will be different. So, that shows, and in his subconscious mind, definitely, still all these things are there as a jiva, etc. I mean, he still have the same samskaras as of in the, as the person is ignorant. So well, everything, Nididhyasanam job is ultimately to bring out everything from subconscious mind, and it should resolve forever. So from conscious mind, many things may go away, but that's not enough. It should go from subconscious mind. All our habits, responding in a particular situation, etc. It's a habitual response, and that will go by the Nididhyasana. So especially, whenever there is a very disturbing situation, etc., the conscious mind reacts, but in a one way. But basically, certain responses come from the subconscious mind. It's a different. Like they say, a true character of a person can be known only by studying him in a provocative situation. So everybody is, gentle. But when you are dealing from the conscious mind, everybody is very gentle, etc. And when the situation is fine, etc. But because conscious personality is functioning at that time, but if somebody insults, let's say, somebody says some bad words or bitter words, etc., then that person, gets provoked. And so conscious personality is overpowered by the subconscious mind, and definitely his response you will see. And then at that time we may feel this person is a speaker of Vedanta. And maybe sannyasi also may be possible. I'm not criticizing anybody, but it is possible. Any person. Why only Grihastha? Any person. And so that means he has not yet dealt with his subconscious mind. Means Nididhyasana is lacking in his pursuit, basically. So someone said, well, adversity introduces a person to himself. That is how it is. It's very correct. So Nididhyasanam does a job of, please understand, certain thoughts because of a old habit may arise also, but because of Nididhyasanam you will be in charge of yourself, of your mind, and you can swallow those negative thoughts also. This is the phalam of Nididhyasana. Certain habits are such, it comes out, but it comes to the conscious mind, but it doesn't come out. It does not get expressed outward. Before that itself, that person is able to swallow it. So that is also a result of a Nididhyasana. So this assimilation of knowledge definitely requires a Nididhyasana, and Samadhi is a possible consequence of this Nididhyasana. We don't say Samadhi is must, Samadhi is required, etc. We don't say. Without Samadhi, we won't get moksha, etc. That is not the case. Like this, I can give you an example. When you read a book, you follow the book. It's not that you understand the book only when you are absorbed into that, or when you forget everything outside and you are totally absorbed into book, then only you understand the book. It's not so. And therefore, such kind of an absorption is not necessary. This is an outcome which he discusses, which Vidyaranya discusses, but this is not required for us. And even Upanishad, nowhere in any Upanishad you will find that Samadhi is been told as a requirement for assimilation of knowledge, etc. Nowhere you will find. There is a Nididhyasana which has been talked about, and that I told you already, that Atmavare Drashtavyaha, Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha, Nididhyasitavyaha. And therefore, this Nididhyasanam could result into this. This could happen. That's what he is telling. No extra benefit. Don't think that there is some extra benefit. Nididhyasanam and some Nirvikalpa Samadhi, some extra benefit. No, nothing of that sort. Only we are interested in to remove the viparya, viparita bhavana, wrong notions pertaining to the self. Those things will go away. Issues which are there in the subconscious mind, well, certain habits which are not good, I mean getting angry and all these things, certain emotional issues, well, those things will resolve. Definitely it will resolve, because this knowledge has percolated into the subconscious mind, has driven out the old personality, and therefore Nididhyasana does this job. It will percolate your mind, I mean this knowledge, from the conscious mind to subconscious mind. And so it will definitely, now in subconscious mind, two opposite things can't remain. The things pertaining to ignorance, I mean all this manifestation due to ignorance, whatever emotional issues, etc., I am lonely, etc., that will not remain. As if you really have done a Nididhyasana and you know that, well, there is nothing called loneliness. I am basically alone in this creation, but basically I am not a lonely person like that, basically. So that's just a thought in a mind that goes away. And then fear and whatnot, we have discussed. So absorption and forgetfulness of surrounding are possible consequences while doing Nididhyasanam, but that is not necessary or a required condition. And so Nididhyasanam is just sufficient to remove wrong notions. That is sufficient. I mean your assimilation of knowledge at the subconscious level is sufficient. And you will find the difference. How, Swamiji, how can I find a difference? Well, you can find a difference in your behavior, especially the situation, adverse situation or provocative situation. Earlier we were getting angry, getting agitated, getting fearful in situation. When some people are like that. When they find lot of people, they somehow become, they become fearful for no reason. So, or they feel agitated. If lot of people are there around, they don't like, they just go into some corner and sit, or they go out of that place. They can't stand people. These are all problems basically. And so you yourself are a judge whether after Nididhyasanam you have become free from all these issues or not. And if it has not, you have found that it has not helped, well, continue Nididhyasanam. And so ultimately Nididhyasanam is definitely a solution for that. Shravanam is most important, and basically Shravanam gives you a teaching which you dwell upon in Nididhyasana, and then assimilation takes place. So a person does repeated, and we have seen also Nididhyasana, several types of Nididhyasana I have already talked to you. A person does a repeated Shravanam itself becomes Nididhyasana, as Sureshwaracharya ji told in Nishkarmi Siddhi. Then second type of Nididhyasanam I have told you, a person shares knowledge and then definitely gets a chance to dwell upon the Shastra, like I am right now doing. So definitely if I have to share this knowledge to you, well, I have to refer everything, few hours, etc. So I get a chance that way to dwell upon the Shastra. And very advantage of this, don't take it differently, but advantage is that you definitely won't spend time in something which is, meaningless, definitely. When you dwell upon the Shastra, you will definitely have to think about Atma, etc. and all this. So that all help you ultimately in assimilating knowledge. So this is another type of Nididhyasanam, is a person sharing the knowledge, dwelling upon the Shastras. That's how sometimes we always tell to some senior people and who are a little confident and they are that we are clear about the certain things, etc. We tell them, we request them that please take a small class with few people, etc. That helps. It should not. There is a danger involved, is that sometimes sometimes our ahankara gets some nourishment. Well, people tell, oh, you have explained beautifully, etc., etc. Then instead of getting nishtha into Brahman, basically ahankara, gets nourished, etc. But ultimately, this is a way of doing. Then third thing I have told you is discussion of this teaching. I mean, we have several books, etc., and discussion among the people. Here also I have told you, well, we have to, a group leader, etc., has to be very, very cautious, very, very alert person he should be. that the discussion is dragged to in some direction, and then time gets lost, and then ultimately everyone realizes, oh, today is over now. We will discuss this particular verse of Bhagavad Gita next time. So it should not happen. A group leader has to bring back, and he should be in command of this thing. But discussion also helps a person. And you say, Swamiji, I don't like to mingle with other people and all this. Don't worry. Well, I hope you will have a habit of walking, etc. I hope. So even while walking itself, a person can dwell upon a certain idea of today's learning, let's say, dwell upon a certain idea himself. That is also Nididhyasanam. And so we don't give a formal, we don't give importance to this formal meditation, sitting, etc. and all that. We don't give too much importance to that. The way yogi does, well, we are not doing that kind of a thing. But since Vidyaranya has brought this topic of samadhi, well, he comments on samadhi, borrowing idea from Yoga Shastra, and we have discussed what is dharana, fixing the mind, what is dhyanam, ekatanatvam, etc. Flow of the thoughts, and what is samadhi also we have discussed in our own way, in our Vedantic way. So even though he has borrowed the terms from the Yoga Shastra, Ashtanga Yoga, dharana, dhyan and samadhi, we have discussed in our own, we have molded them in our own way. And when he discusses about yoga, whenever anywhere Yoga Shastra comes in any book, you should be very awareful, really. You should be very alert, especially because we can't unconditionally accept the ideas of other Shastras, definitely. So we will have to filter what is Shruti Viruddham, and what is Yukti Viruddham, and what is Anubhava Siddham. So all these things which is contrary to experience, we'll have to negate it. What is contrary to the logic, we have to negate it. What is contrary to the Shruti Vakyas, to the Upanishad statement, we have to negate it. So, and that's how in Brahma Sutra, well, there is a portion which is analyzing this Yoga Shastra, and there Bhashyakara has very beautifully said that we won't negate Yoga Shastra, but what is opposite to Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava, well, we will reject with due respect to Patanjali. That's what very clearly told by Bhashyakara in a Brahma Sutra. In Brahma Sutra, some sutras are there where Yoga Shastra also is analyzed. Like other systems of philosophy are analyzed, Yoga Shastra is also analyzed in Brahma Sutra, because we will have a certain fancy regarding samadhi and dhyanam and all these things. So, and we clearly adopt those things as it is and try to implement, then it won't fit into Vedanta. So what is Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava Viruddham, well, we'll have to keep it aside. So he says that with due respect to Patanjali, whatever in Yoga Shastra which is contrary, actually we cannot accept it. Now, from verse number 59, basically in this following shlokas, from verse number 59 to 62, well, we find that, Vidyaranya Swami, well, he sings the glory of a yoga also. See, what happens in Vedanta, that basically Shravanam and gaining knowledge is basically a main thing. In Yoga Shastra, Samadhi is the pinnacle. Samadhi is the main thing. And this Shravanam, etc. is a Gaunam. Gaining knowledge, they don't like much. They don't like. They always talk about Samadhi. Samadhi is a pinnacle. For that you do Ashtanga Yoga practice, etc. And then when you talk about this gaining knowledge, exposing yourself to Shastra, etc., they don't prefer. So this is very opposite. Please understand. So, well, we give most importance to the gaining knowledge, and then definitely mananam, etc., to making it free, and nididhyasanam, assimilation, etc. So, basically, Shravanam is the main thing. Gaining knowledge is the first thing. Then only we can dwell upon teaching in nididhyasanam. So, for us, gaining knowledge or Shravanam is most important. In Yoga Shastra, Shravanam is the least important. Samadhi is the most important, etc. So, well, we cannot accept that way. And therefore, but anyway, Vidyaranya here, especially verse number 59 now to 62, he praises the glory of Samadhi, etc. And tomorrow I will take those verses. First I will give you some running meaning of all the verses, and then we will analyze little briefly also. This is just for a clarification. So now for today's class this is enough. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.